with Miss Grieving-Brown. She was a social worker there, but my mom was a nurse. And then years later, I worked with Miss Grieving-Brown. We were bar bulldogs. And what? Yeah, 8th grade, her office, if you remember where, if you go up the stairs of bar, if you're a bar bulldog, and you went to the left, Miss Brown's office was all the way to the left. And then I was a room 202, I think. I was like the second door down. And yeah, so we've known each other forever. And she came up here, then a couple years later, I came up here.
Is this your third year here?
This is fourth.
This is fourth. This is my fifth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so hi, my name's Ann, and I am one of two social workers here at Grieving-Brown Senior High. And so I'm going to just tell you a little bit about what I'm hoping to cover, and then hopefully you have some questions. How long do I have?
You have 40 minutes.
40 minutes. Okay, I really won't talk that long, because I want you to ask some questions. Okay, so let's see. Why did I become a social worker? I had to do some head scratching on that. When I was very young, probably about 12 years old, my mom signed me up for this babysitting. And it was 3 kids, and they were about 4 miles away from my house, which is kind of like very close when you're out in the middle of nowhere on the farm. And 2 of the 3 kids were severely disabled. So disabled that even at the ages of like 6 and 8, I had to pick them up and carry them everywhere that I took them, which wasn't a whole lot of places. And I also had to do the craziest thing called tube feeding. So they could not eat this way. And so they had a tube coming out of their belly about right here. And I would hook it up to something up here, and I would blend their food, and I would put it in this little tube feeding. Can you believe that? I was like only about 12 or 14 when I did that. So anyway, I think that God gave me this heart of compassion because I love those little kids. Betsy and Ty were their names. They eventually died of their disabilities, and it was a really sad day. But anyway, so I think that early on, I just had a compassionate heart that I felt bad for other people. And I remember praying at night, God, if you have to put disabled kids on this earth, why don't you give me a couple of them? Because I think I can handle it. So I kind of forgot that until, he gave me some disabled kids, but they're kind of disabled in different ways. I don't do tube feedings, but I have a lot of other issues that I have. So I'm a mother of 6 kids. I had a girl and then a boy, and then we adopted 3 kids from the foster care system. And then I always say God pulled the funny and I got pregnant again. So that's number 6. So I've got 6 kids, 1 girl, 5 boys. And let me tell you, I can bring down a house like that and make them behave of my 5 boys because I kind of have a little bit of spice in my snap and my voice. And so my little boy just said to me the other day, I think we should adopt these 2 little boys from Haiti because Mom, I think you can handle them. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm starting to wear down and I have other duties in life, like quilting that I'm kind of doing. Okay, so anyway, so part of the reason why I became a social worker is because I had a heart compassion. Here's the other reason that probably inspired me even more so. Am I being recorded?
Live stream. So that other classes.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, so all of a sudden I'm like, I think that's a camera. Right. Okay, so anyway, so when I was a high school senior, there was a girl that I played basketball with. Like, this is gonna freak you out, okay? So, I'll clean it up after I tell the story, but she was constantly thinking that she needed to kill herself. So we were not a very good team at all. And so if she didn't make her free throw shot or if we lost really bad, she would sit on the bus and she had a razor blade with her at all times and she wanted to kill herself. Okay, so yeah, I know, isn't that that's so heavy when I look back on that. And we girls, we just dealt with it. We went to the back of the bus and we talked her out of it every time. We made her contract for her safety and all that other stuff. And the scary thing is that back then, I did not know that I could have gone to a teacher or a guidance counselor or anything like that. That there were adults that could have helped us with that situation. But I can just remember feeling like, you know, I want to help people. I want to be that person that's ready to listen. I want to be the person that wants to walk beside somebody when they have a difficult day. And so that's probably the beginning of my desire to be a social worker. We didn't have, Kurt's, you're about my age. Our guidance counselors probably did not work with us very much into what job or where you should go to college. So my very first degree was actually called Human Development in the Family, which is very closely related to social work, but it's like Peter Pan peanut butter compared to Skippy. You know, if I were to give you, let's see, there's Jose over here. Jose right here, right? Are you Jose? Yes, you are. You're Jose. Yeah. If I were to give you Peter Pan peanut butter or Skippy, which one would you take? Okay, come on, guys. Wouldn't you take Skippy? Yeah. Yeah. You would take Skippy peanut butter. Well, social work is that kind of degree. Social work is the Skippy peanut butter. So about the time when I was a junior senior at UNL, I saw the Department of Social Work. And so I'm like, hey, that's interesting. I've always wanted to be a social worker, and I didn't quite get the mark. So my first word of encouragement is always be talking to your guidance counselor and then doing a whole lot of shadowing. Because if I'd done some shadowing, I would have known I should have gotten my bachelor's degree in social work.
What's shadowing?
Shadowing is when, like, let's pretend I want to be a teacher, so I call up Grand Island Senior High State Mr. Gilbertson, my name is Ann, and I want to be a teacher someday, I think, and I want to do some shadowing. Can you set me up so I can spend an hour with a teacher? And so he says, you betcha. What area? I'm interested in English. Well, how could you go to Miss Kurtz for the day or for a couple hours? And that way, I get to spend time with Miss Kurtz one-on-one, and I get to learn a little bit about her field. You can do that with pharmacy. You can do that with nursing. You can do that in the medical field. A lot of professionals really do want to do this shadowing. It's one of the favorite things that I do.
Can I interject something?
Yes.
So last week when we heard Colonel Braun speak, he talked about having mentors. That would be kind of the same terminology, freshman, that he talked about, having people in his career that he would have conversations with, just like what Ms. Brown's talking about, right?
A mentor is kind of like a professional parent in some ways, a professional guide. And I have some young adults now that I probably am their mentor because I'm enough older than them. I maybe have taught them some things, and they call me on their tough days and they say, Ann, how did you deal with this? So that's what a mentor is. So a mentor can come out of a shadowing relationship because you can kind of learn about them and then move on into more of a relationship like that. So let's see. So then I took my very first, I call it internship, in the field of social work. You know how you'll have student teachers? Well, social workers do what they call internships. And so sometimes you'll see, I just had a kid by the name of Trevor with me. Did you ever see Trevor in the office? No, you didn't? Okay. Anyway, Trevor did 400 hours of shadowing me and learning how to be a social worker. So when I did my very first, I got so excited, I was signed up with this gal by the name of Jerry Jones. And I was like, oh, I love Jerry Jones. I want to be like Jerry Jones. This is 30 years later. Okay, I can still remember her like nothing else. So anyway, Jerry Jones quit the job before I even started. Then there was Arden Zook, and she was just all over. She just wasn't a very good mentor for me at all. And then the lady, at that time, she still smoked at her desk. Yeah. So she took a drag of her cigarette. She goes, Annie. And she blew smoke rolls. And she goes, Annie, you want the job? So at the ripe old age of like 20, I already had my first social work job, and I didn't even have my degree. And so anyway, that was my first job ever. I was a caseworker, so I did foster care. I had a caseload of kids that were in foster care system, and I worked with them. And then at that point in time, there was a lady by the name of Barb Stone that came in my life, and I watched her, and she always had control of her caseload. And she had her master's degree in social work. And I decided I wanted one of them. So I just recently connected with Barb Stone in my life, and I said, I just want you to know what kind of impact you had on my life. You inspired me to go get my master's degree. So I went on, somewhere between that time I got married, and my husband was in the Air Force. And so I got my degree from UNL, and I have a master's degree in social work. So let me just educate you a little bit. An associate's degree is like 2 years. A college degree is usually 4 or thereabouts, okay? Everybody some people can do it 3.5 if you go to Grand Island Senior High and take a lot of classes. Some of you need probably 5, okay? And then a master's degree is usually 2 years on beyond a bachelor's degree, okay? Does that make sense? And so this is an associate, and this can be a bachelor's of science or a bachelor's of art. And then this is a master's level. And then up from there is a PhD, okay? So I got my master's degree. I worked in North Omaha. I worked with some of the toughest gang families up in North Omaha. and it was exciting and exhilarating and scary. And if my mama knew what I was really doing back then, she would have like pulled me out by my ear and said, you don't belong there. And then I moved back here, and my first real job was at the Veterans Home. I was the director of social work there. And so I had a staff that eventually became about 8 staff members that I supervised, and we provided social work to veterans. And then what I've always, at that time, what I really liked doing was individual and family therapy. And so I had my own private practice business just down the street from here, and I had that for about 10, rough ideas. Yeah, I don't know, 10, 15 years. Somewhere around there. And so when I was that, I was a therapist. And so, you know, you and your family might come to me, and your mom and dad are like not getting along. So you come and talk to me, and we talk about strategies of how they might get along, or there might be some conflict within the family. So I did that for those years. I also did some court work, where if you two boys' parents got divorced and they were fighting for custody, I would interview you, I would interview mom and dad, I'd interview relatives, and then I would make a recommendation. I would go and I would testify in court onto what I had found and what I thought was important for the family. And then my family exploded. And then I needed to stay home for a little bit and catch my breath and help some of my kids that had disabilities. So I stayed home for about 4 years. And then my crazy friend, Michelle Walker, anybody a Dodge Dragon around here? Anybody go to Dodge? There's a couple of people in Dodge. Do you remember Miss Walker? You don't? She used to go around telling everyone she was Miss America. Oh, I know her. I know. She is the finest social worker in the world. Jennifer Rodriguez. Okay, so anyway, Michelle called me and said, hey, get out of retirement, come back to the school system. They got jobs. I think you could do it. Because when you're a private practice therapist, you are a lot of times at nights and you're on call. I wasn't able to do that because my husband's a farmer. And so I really struggled to be like a mom and those kinds of things. So at any rate, then I took my job here at Maryland Senior High. And, well, actually, BAR, I was there for 4 years, 5 years here. So I've been in the school system now for 9 years, and I love it because my favorite thing that I always wanted to do was private practice. I mean, I kind of like adults, but I really like kids a whole lot better. I really like working with kids. And so that's my favorite part of my job is that I get to work with kids, getting to try to make their lives a little bit better in whatever way I can. So, let's see. What are some other, I want to tell you about some challenges of my job. Yeah, because my job, I love it. But can I tell you, there are some days that are super tough. There are days that when I have a kid that comes to tell me something about what's going on at home, and it makes me want to cry. Because either A, I don't think parents should treat their kids that way, or maybe there's something going on in their home life that I just think is just really hard. And so my job is to try to take those barriers away so that when you guys come here to school, you can be a student and you can dress cute and come to class and learn rather than have what I call life on the brain, having everything from the, and so, you know what, guys, I get it. We all struggle with that a little bit. You know, like, does your mom ever yell at you in the morning? Let's just admit. Okay, I didn't yell at my kids any this morning. But yesterday morning, I was like, seriously, dude, you gotta do this better. You know, I'm cool, you know. So that's okay. But sometimes there's a whole lot of spillover from your family life into school, and sometimes that becomes difficult. So that would probably be one of my biggest challenges ever, is that when I see things happen to kids that I just go, can we just do something better? But then I take a step back and I realize pretty quickly is that, so let's just pretend you have a parent that has a drug or alcohol issue. It's not their fault. They just need help. And so that's the challenge of my job. And that's also the good thing is that I get to try to figure out how can we make things better for kids. What's the most rewarding project I've ever worked on? I don't know. Okay, so, well, when I was a therapist, one of my favorite to do was to work with women who had been sexually assaulted or raped. And when I got to work with those ladies, I felt like I was really helping them regain a sense of who they were and how they could continue living and not be plagued with, nightmares and flashbacks and those kinds of things. So I have some cases that are very, very precious to me that I got to have a hand in. And so those were probably some of my most favorite ones. It wasn't long ago, there was one of the girls that I treated when she was itty bitty and she was here at Grand Island Senior High. And so every day I saw her, it was just kind of a reminder of all the good work she did in therapy when she was 3 and 4. And she just had a really rough home life. So anyway, so I want to tell you a little bit about a range of social work. So there are so many different areas that you can serve in. You could be in the hospital, and if you're in the hospital and you're a mom and your kid's in the hospital, I might arrange transportation, or I might make sure that you have housing, or I might make sure that you get a nice referral for something. If your dad's in a nursing home, I might make sure that I help you and your family make decisions about if he's going to come home and what services does he need. If I'm in Department of Health and Human Services, they get the bad rap, and they're not all social workers, so I just want you to know. It's kind of like they're not all Skippy Peanut Butter. They call themselves Peanut Butter. They're helping people, but they're not all social workers. And so I kind of take offense to that. Okay, but anyway. But let's just pretend that you're involved with Health and Human Services. Maybe my role is, everybody thinks I just go in to take kids away, but that's really not their primary mission. Their primary mission is that here in the state of Nebraska and in the United States, we have a baseline of saying all kids deserve a few things in their life. And so the HHS worker or the DHHS worker, caseworker comes in to make sure that happens. So that may mean that you go, Mrs. Grieving-Brown, here's what I really need. My kid's out of control and I don't know how to discipline them. All right, well, let's get you some parenting classes and let's get you somebody in the home to help you out. So that's another area of it. Court work. I did court work for a little bit and I answered to the judge. And the judge would say, Miss Grieving-Brown, I need you to go investigate so-and-so's family and tell me what you think, where the kids should be. There are some some social workers that, we're just all over. Yeah. Some people, okay, so I wish you could see Patty Bennett because she's my cohort. She's really good at something that I'm not good at. I'm really good at working with families on this level, but what she does is she loves to work on big issues that impact all the families of Grand Island. Okay? So she takes it not just as the family unit, but she takes it as all the families. So we call that macro social work. I'm more of a micro social worker. I really like the individual family, but she likes to do this kind of work. So there are social workers who are state senators because they've served in the nursing home and at DHHS and in private practice. And so they want to influence policies and decisions and state law. Does that make sense? So we're all over. We are all over. Yeah, okay. There's no physical strain in my, well, yes there is. Sometimes I move a lot of beds and dressers, but I always try to find, Hofelt's my favorite guy here to move furniture with. Hofelt. Hofelt's a good guy. Let's see. Are there any limitations to my personal or social life? Sometimes there are, especially when I was in private practice. So let's just pretend that you and your family are my client in private practice. I'm bound by what they call confidentiality. That means that if I see you and your family and I know so much about your family, I can't go over here and say, by the way, I got family therapy, and did you know that their dog is out of control and it bites everybody and their dog's name is Sammy Joe? I can't tell anything about that. And then also, what else makes it a little complicated is that sometimes when I see your family, it's uncomfortable because they may not want to know, they don't want other people to know that they're in therapy. Create some limitations for me because it's just a little uncomfortable. So that would be one limitation. In this job, I'm not really on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that's a positive thing about being in the school system, although there are several of my families who do have my phone number. So even last night, as I'm trying to be a mom, I get a call from one of my students saying, Ms. Grieving-Brown, I really need your help. And I'm like, alrighty, how can I help you? Are you safe right now? And so that's kind of the maybe a limitation. It's not, I feel like it's under control. It's not a bad thing, but sometimes it could be out of it. What are some things I don't like about my job?
Is it stressful? Can it be stressful?
It can be really stressful because sometimes I just want you kids happy. I just want you happy. I want you to be able to come to school and to learn and to not be plagued by other things. So that sometimes is a really stressful thing for me. And that's just because some people call me a Pollyanna. That's what Mr. Court would have called me. That I wear my heart on my sleeve and I want everybody to be happy. And that's why I do, because I just, and we all have those situations. Kurtz, you probably had some situations in your childhood. Miss Milton, you probably had some situations in your childhood that maybe weren't perfect, but you learn to overcome them. And I hope that I'm always the person that can grab the hand and say, we're going to walk this mountain together and it's going to be okay. The most satisfying thing about my job, money, vacations, coworkers, retirement. I think it's none of those. I think it's that I get the personal satisfaction of when somebody has crawled that mountain and has done whatever that is, whether that is, like, okay guys, I get it. There are some of you kids right now in this room that school is not your favorite place to be, right? Don't raise your hand because I don't want to know that. But when I finally get you guys to understand that, you know what, you may not like it, but there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and it's called a diploma, and then you get to start making some calls by yourself. And so that's kind of one of those things that, that helps me to keep working towards something good. So I kind of told you what kind of education I needed. For this job, I had to have a master's degree, no less. And here's another little interesting fact. Here in Grand Island, we have 14 social workers in the school system. 14. Is that a lot or is that a lot? And actually, we've been in meetings with Lincoln and Omaha, and they're like, holy buckets. What did your school district do to get that many of you? So per capita here in Grand Island, I guess I don't have the statistics, but I would say that we are probably staffed with the most social workers per student. Now, here's another one of my huge challenges. Okay. I miss bar. I miss bar because, well, okay, first of all, I like working in middle school. I also like working in high school. One of the things I like working about high schools are you guys have the ability to direct your life a little bit more than a middle schooler. And I love that part. The other part that I really liked about middle school was my caseload. I only had 800 students on my caseload. 800. I now have about 1,200. And I would say the needs that I dealt with at bar for 800 were here, and the needs of my students of 1,200 here are like here. And I would say that the situations that I deal with are way more hefty and hard, and they make me move fast, and they make me sadder than what I saw at bar middle school. And so that is probably the biggest frustration of my job here, is because at bar, I got to go, I don't have any of you kids that I knew from bar, but when I was at bar, I got to do lunch duty. And my schedule just doesn't allow me to do that because I'm out and about so much. But I loved it because I got to know Cole for what he liked at the lunch table before Cole ever came to me and said, hey, I need some new shoes and my parents can't afford new shoes. Does that make sense? And so that's one of the things that, and I'm pretty public about it. That's one of my downfalls of my job here, as I'm just too busy because I don't get to know very many kids just because they're good kids. So
what letters of the alphabet do you have here?
I have A, if your last name starts with A through L. And then Patty takes M through Z. And we're very, very, Patty and I are awesome about, I never take one of her letters, and she never takes one of my letters, because here's the reason why, and I have to explain this. Okay, so Jennifer Rodriguez, right? Rodriguez? Okay, I didn't remember. Rodriguez Rivera. Let's pretend that she comes to me and you say, I want to quit school. I don't find the value in school. And are you there? Okay, she's there. Okay, so let's just pretend she comes to me with that concern. Well, I'm going to start talking to you about, well, okay, what do you want to do when you're done? And how can we get you through quicker and those kind of things? Well, then I have to go to your principal and your guidance counselor to get things going in a different direction for you. I'm going to advocate for you, okay? So like oh my gosh, this case just happened this week, last week. I had a girl come to me. All I knew was her first name. She got referred to me. First name only. And lo and behold, I'm living here. I'm into hair. I just need guys that have great hair. I mean, the girls have got it, but I'm like, okay, so this girl came to me and she wanted to graduate early. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about this. What do we need? What do we need? What do we need? Then I found out her last name is not in my side of the alphabet. Well, guess what? I don't work on a daily basis with Miss Wells or Miss Minkin. And so I don't know how they deal with things. I know how Mr. Morrow works. I know that if I go to him, 9 times out of 10, I can predict his answer. I've worked with him for 5 years, so I got him done. I know that Mr. Hester is going to say yes to these things and no to these kinds of things. So I really get it. And I get my guidance counselors. I kind of know what I can do or not do with them. So at any rate, I had to pass that off to Miss Bennett because that's her side of the alphabet. And so we're really picky about that. So, and here's the sad thing is that, let's just be Jennifer. Jennifer sees me in the hallway, hi, Miss Grieving-Brown, I got a problem, I need new shoes. Well, I'd love to help you, but I got to take it down to Miss Bennett because Miss Bennett kind of knows more about what's going on in the world. Yeah.
You ever work with military people? Because our first 2 speakers were McCline and Sergeant Evans.
When I was in, 2 things. When I went, well, my husband was in the military, that was interesting. Very interesting. To be a spouse of a military person. And so we lived on base. That was interesting. When I was in private practice, I did hold a contract and I did see some veterans. Not a whole lot. So I don't have, they have some very, very special issues. Here in Grand Island, we are so blessed. We've got a lot of different veterans organizations who are here to support veterans. I was listening to YouTube. I gotta turn this off. Oh my gosh, listen. So I was listening to Taxi by Pitbull today. I'm pretty sure that that's a cool song. Pitbull, the singer? Yeah, guys, it's got a Caribbean beat to it, right? Yeah. Is that like a really old song? It is?
No, it might be new to us. Right?
It's really new to me, but I was kind of like, maybe I should listen to it. Should I listen to Pitbull more? Maybe? Okay, who's that? Maybe not. Okay, well, anyway, I think I answered quite a few. Is anybody interested in a career of social work?
What are some of the skills you need? Do you need to be a good communicator?
You have to be a good communicator. I just had this intern student, and one of the things I really hit upon with him was that you need to be a really good listener. So let's pretend that Adriana. Okay, Adriana comes to me and she starts out by saying she needs new shoes. I don't know, I pull that out of that. But then I start asking her some more questions. And then what she really tells me is that it's not really shoes she needs, but she has these other things that she needs in her life as well. Like maybe she's feeling really unconnected here at school. Maybe she needs to be taken into some activities and be more involved in those kinds of things. Or maybe she needs shoes, socks, and things. Or maybe she needs vet. So, you have to be a really good listener and ask questions. So I don't just say, so you come in and you go, Ms. Grieving-Brown, I need new shoes. And I say, do you need a vet? No. Do you need this? No. Do you need this? That's not really listening, is it? You have to ask open-ended questions. What else can I do for you? How are things at home? Can I get anything else for you? How do you sleep at night? Those kinds of things. Or where do you live? Or who do you live with? So you ask a lot of questions. And you have to be a good listener. I think the other thing is that you have to be compassionate because let's just pretend you come to me. Jonathan comes to me and maybe I don't like boys that have curly hair. Okay, well, maybe I just don't like that. Well, that's not okay for a social worker. I need to like boys that have curly hair or straight hair or no hair. And so you have to be very non-judgmental because his curly hair it's for real. You didn't have to do anything to make it. See, you know what I'm saying? Whatever he comes with is what he brings. And so you have to be really non-judgmental and like anybody who comes into your office and to just really understand where they're coming from. Does that make sense? So that would be, you also have to be very compassionate. So when somebody tells me a story and it's sad, I need to reflect it back to them. So Miss Milton tells me this story about her favorite cat dies, and she's crying. I'm not going to be going over there. I got this cat at home. It's crazy. It's got 3 legs, and that would hurt her feelings, right? So I have to be able to mirror the same sadness, okay? I think you also have to be very, what's the word? Like, you think with your gut. Do you guys know what that word is?
Intuition?
Yes.
Intuitive.
You have to be intuitive. So, like, let's pretend Mario comes in to see me, and he's just really kind of he's doing this. Like, usually Mario's like, hey, listened to Pitbull this morning, I'm kind of tired. And all of a sudden today, he's not. So you have to be intuitive and to say, wow, Mario, you're looking kind of sad today. What's going on? Or I have to know when I need to call a kid into my office or not, because that's important too. What else can I say?
You have to be able to work with groups.
Oh, yes, you have to work with groups. Here's the other thing about social workers. Now, if I was a DHHS worker, I kind of call shots. But when I was at the veterans home, and when I'm here, we call that, we're in a host society. We're in a host environment, which means that I am not the primary lead. So I am support for the teacher. The teacher and the principals take the lead. It's all about education, and I come in behind with the support. Does that make sense? Whereas if it's a DHHS kind of caseworker, she calls all the shots, and she says it like it is. So she's kind of got the corner market on all the information. But if it's education or medical, the nurses call all the shots, the nurses and doctors, and the social workers just come in to support. Make sense? So that's kind of a different environment. Like when I was in my own private practice, I was the queen of it all, you know? And so you have to be able, and so in here, I have to be able, okay, here's a good example of me being a host. I try really hard not to call my students out in the middle of English class, because guess what? You all need English to graduate. Bottom line. Now I may call and say, hey, at the end of the class period, would you please send Jose down, because I want to.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I'm always like, hey, can you send him down at the end of the class period, because I need a couple of minutes, and I know that if I page him in the hallway, there's not enough time, and then they're late to science, and I don't want that. So I'm always trying to split the difference. Make sense?
Are there more males going into the field of social work than ever? Or do we need more males?
Oh my gosh, there's two things that field of social work needs. Number one, we need more males.
And that's what teaching too, guys.
We need more males, because sometimes, let's just be honest, I've never been a male in high school. I've never been a boy in high school. So I don't always understand exactly what boys are going through. And like, if you're crushing on someone, I don't really understand it from a boy's perspective. I get it. Now I'm raising 5 boys, so I'm starting to learn it, but not all the way. Like, Clark, my youngest, tried to teach me about, like, this girl's digging him, but this girl is really liked by his buddy. And so he's in I know, like, so is he gonna dance with the girl or not? So he's trying to educate me on that. So we need more boys. The other thing we need more of is bilingual, because here's the thing. Okay, so let's just pretend you maybe kind of speak a little bit English, but not a whole lot. And I come to talk to you about something very emotional. Your dog died, and you're very, very sad about it. Guess what? She may speak a little bit of English, but what I know about English language development is that what you learn first is where's the bathroom, what to eat, table. You learn kind of that basic, yes, very social communication. You tend not to learn the emotional language. And so it's really hard for me to communicate with you about emotionally, your dog died, when I don't have that language and you don't have the language back for me. So we need a lot more bilingual. We definitely need that. So those are two things that we need. Yep. And you have to be somebody that's willing to work sometimes nights and weekends and those kinds of things.
Anyone have questions for Ms. Grieving-Brown?
What's your day look like? Okay, so like today, I will be working on some cases where kids have missed more than 20 days. So I got to figure out why have they missed and what are we going to do about that. That's a big part of my job here at Brown on the Senior High. Maybe not one of my funnest things but then I always have to look at it this way. I don't think kids just miss 20 days to miss 20 days. there's usually something down below. And that's the intuition I gotta figure out. Okay, so Miss Milton has missed 25 days of school. I've got to really sit and listen to Miss Milton and her parents or her parent and say, what's going on with Erin? And then I find out, I have to dig down, and what I realized is that Miss Milton is really struggling because these hallways are so full, and maybe she has some anxiety. Or maybe something has happened to, her older brother just got over to Afghanistan, deployed to Afghanistan, and she's really struggling with that. Or maybe she has a little sister that has a big medical condition or something like that. So that's what I'm going to be working on this morning. And then later on, I have a mom coming in because she's really struggling with her son. And he's not following directions at home. And she's really frustrated and she doesn't know what to do with it. So I'm going to be working on that. And then I'm going to be following up on some other cases that I have worked with in the past that I need to just check back and say, hey, how are you doing? I have a girl that I'm going to spend quite a bit of time with today. Hopefully, not in English or math or science or social studies, but in one of her other periods to figure out how I can make things better for her at school because she has some adoption issues. And I think she's kind of struggling a little bit, and I need to let her know what some resources are for that. And then today, at the end of my day, this is kind of exciting. There was a crime committed in our community, which I'm not going to tell you what the crime is because it's confidential, but I'm going to take a family to the Grand Island Police Department and meet them there so that this family can meet law enforcement. So that law enforcement can communicate back with this family about what's going on in this crime case. Because I've been talking with the cop. And so we always have to have all these allied relationships. So I gotta have a little bit of basic knowledge about teaching, okay, a little bit. And cops are another thing that we work with a lot. And so I called up the cop and I say, hey, bud, this family says they need to talk with you. And he says, I've been trying to call them, but they're not returning my phone calls. How can I help you? Well, I'm gonna bring them there today at 3:30. So I'm gonna say, cop, meet family, family, meet cop. How can I make sure that this works? So I'm kind of sometimes, I'm kind of like that chain link fence. I'm going to communicate with the cop and the family and get them to hold hands together. And then I'm actually going to back out of the case and only be called if the cop needs me or if the family needs me. So that's going to be an exciting part of my day because I always like to, I really like to meet people outside of Grand Island Senior High and make new friends and make new colleagues. One of the things that I'm so excited about learning, you guys know anything about human trafficking? I'm going to spend 2 minutes and I'm going to let you do it. Human trafficking. You know anything about human trafficking? Yeah. It is huge, and it's getting even huger. That's not a word. It's getting bigger and bigger in our community. Because, I have to draw.
Yeah, draw.
Because here's the state of Nebraska. Okay. Okay, so here's where I have, right? And here's Lincoln, and here's Omaha, right? And this is Highway 30. Right? No, that's Interstate 80, right? Right. I-80. Whoop, whoop. And then also we have something called 281 that goes to Grand Island. And then not too far away, we have Highway 34. And we also have Highway 32. Well, actually 39. Well, anyway, so we are at what they call crosshairs of 2 major highways. And so that means that human trafficking is, we have more human trafficking cases per capita than Lincoln or Omaha. What's human trafficking? Human trafficking is, let's pretend that I am going to take this group of girls and I'm going to sell them. I'm going to sell them, and what they're going to do for me is they are going to do sexual acts. Okay? Get paid for it. And get paid for it. But they don't get to keep any of the money. I take it all. So I'm a human trafficker. And what I do is I move my girls around from event to event to event. And so it is becoming really huge, big business, especially here in Nebraska. Big events like State Fair, College World Series, the solstice, the solar eclipse that's coming to town, another big event for human trafficking. So this is kind of a pocket of knowledge that I'm just starting to become aware of. And I'm concerned about it because I'm afraid that, first of all, we're sitting ducks because of our physical location, but I'm concerned because we have young, beautiful girls that go to school here, and I think it could be just like that, that they could be convinced or coerced to be part of this. Yeah. So that's kind of my new thing. So I'm getting to hold hands with a state patrolman who's really knowledgeable about it. And I just met some like really incredibly smart people that are just a guy that works for immigration, but kind of a whole different piece of immigration that kind of works these trafficking cases. And that's somebody from Grand Island PD. And I got to meet this other guy that all he does all day is like he figures out computers and looks at the crime that's going on the internet, and he watches that. I'm like fascinated by that knowledge because that's like so new to me. So it's kind of something new that I'm into learning about.
You're constantly learning, aren't you, Ms. Brown?
I am, because each one of my jobs, like my first job, I had to learn how to deal with people that had dementia, you know, and then I had to kind of learn about sexual assault and child abuse. And then I had to learn a lot about attorneys. Boy, I love hanging out with attorneys. I think they're fascinating people. Judges, I have this one favorite judge. I need to go visit her. I go visit her once a year. I just love her to death. Miss Teresa Luther, honorable judge. She's just a brainiac in my world. I just highly respect her. Anyway, so I love getting to know like attorneys. They fascinate me. Like they're on the stand. And so Miss Milton and I are attorneys and we're fighting for our cases. And she's just laying it on and I'm laying it on. And then afterwards we say, hey, Miss Milton, let's go shopping this weekend. And you're like, they like each other after they just fought that hard? And they do, because they fight for their clients. I think that's fascinating. And now I had to learn about education. I didn't know all about education until I stepped into the schools 9 years ago. And I still don't know a whole lot, but I know a whole lot more than I did. And so, yeah, I'm always learning. I like to learn. So, and if I didn't have any kids, I'd go back for my PhD. And what? I don't know. I've been looking at that. Here you go. Any other questions? You guys were awesome.
I think good. It's just a great group. Miss Milton and I love this group.
I can see why. They are great kids. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Miss Milton and Miss Kurtz, okay? You get this. You guys can fight over this. Okay. Fight over it.
It's going to be in our career hall of fame.
It is.
Yeah, we're going to start having a career hall of fame. Now that we're going to start going to academies, we're going to make a shelf that's going to be our careers, different careers that we can go to. So that way I don't have to hurt Miss Milton.
Yeah, because I don't want you to hurt her.
No, because that would not be.
I just thought, you could do rock, paper, scissors a couple times.
Okay, 3 outside.
Okay, peace, love. You guys are awesome.
Okay, hold on. We got to do 3 on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. You're amazing.
Yeah. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was really good.
Yeah. You guys are so lucky.
Hey, you can spend the next 4 minutes visiting with each other.